I am Kendra, 29 years old, and a dedicated high school teacher in Seattle. For 4 years, I'd been pouring nearly a third of my salary into keeping my family afloat, mortgage payments, grocery runs, even bailing out my older brother's debts, while they chipped away at me with their endless digs. That one family dinner shattered everything. My father leaned in, his voice dripping with that familiar sneer, and said, "How does it feel to be dumber than a pig?" My mother chuckled, her eyes sharp as knives, and my younger sister burst out laughing, grabbing my plate and tossing it aside like trash. "This is human food," she mocked, the words landing like a slap. The table erupted in their twisted amusement forks clinking against plates as if nothing had happened. My stomach twisted into knots. I'd given them everything: my time, my money, my sanity, and this was how they saw me. Useless. Invisible. I pushed back my chair, the scrape echoing loud in the sudden hush, and walked out without a word. No explosion. No tears. Just silence. One day later, my phone lit up with my mother's desperate plea. "We need $50,000 to save the house." Her voice cracked over voicemail, all the venom gone. I stared at the screen, the irony burning hot. All those years of their barbs, and now this. I typed back, fingers steady for the first time in forever. 3 people begging a pig. The line went dead silent on their end. That message. It was the spark. What came next tore our family apart and rebuilt me from the ashes. If you've ever been the punchline in your own life, drop a comment below. Where are you watching from? You won't believe the revenge that followed. Looking back 4 years, everything shifted when my father lost his job at the auto shop. Victor had always scraped by, but the layoffs hit hard, and suddenly our family home in the Seattle suburbs teetered on the edge of foreclosure. I was 25 then, fresh out of college with a teaching credential and my first gig at Lincoln High, molding young minds while mine spun with worry. Without thinking twice, I stepped in. I've been covering the mortgage ever since, $2,500 a month straight from my paycheck, plus groceries and utilities that ate another $500 weekly. It started as temporary, but what was supposed to last a few months stretched into years, my savings draining like sand through fingers. My mother, Tamara, quit her part-time gig at the library right after claiming the stress was too much. "We've raised you right," she'd say. Over the phone, her voice soft but insistent, as if that erased the late nights I'd spent grading papers to make ends meet. I wired the money without fail, watching my own dreams, a down payment on a cozy apartment downtown, fade further away. And it wasn't just them. My older brother Preston called one rainy afternoon, his voice tight on the line. "Sis, the business tanked. I need a loan to get back on my feet." He was 30, then married to Yolanda with a kid on the way, running a failing repair shop like Dad's. I fronted $30,000 from my emergency fund, no questions asked, because that's what family did. Or so I thought. Preston promised repayments, but months turned into excuses. Yolanda's maternity leave hit us hard, he'd mutter during our weekly check-ins while I juggled lesson plans and parent-teacher conferences. Dr. Harlan, my therapist I'd started seeing after a breakdown in the staff lounge, leaned forward during one session, his pen pausing mid-note. "Kendra, this isn't support, it's enabling. You've given them everything but what's left for you." His words hung heavy, stirring that familiar knot in my gut. I'd nod, change the subject, but deep down, the resentment simmered. Why did my straight A's in school earn eye rolls from Victor? Book smart, don't pay bills? While Preston's half-baked ideas got cheers, I'd pour coffee at dawn, prepping for classes on American history, only to field Tamara's complaints about empty nests by evening. One crisp fall morning, as leaves crunched under my tires on the drive to school, my phone buzzed with a bank alert. "Unusual activity on your credit line." I pulled over, heart racing, and logged in. There it was. A personal loan for $30,000 opened 6 months back, co-signed under my name, but addressed to our family home. The borrower. Listed as Preston, but the signature scanned fuzzy too perfect. My hands trembled on the wheel. Who would do this? The pieces clicked slowly. Tamara's vague mentions of tight months. Victor's sudden golf outings. I'd trusted them blindly, but it felt like a knife, twisting slow. By the time I reached the parking lot, doubt flooded in. Was this the breaking point or just the tip? I dove into the credit report one evening after school, the screen glowing harsh in my dim apartment as rain pattered against the window. The loan details stared back $30,000 approved 6 months prior with my social security number stamped bold. But the cosigner line blurred my vision, Marissa. My younger sister Marissa, 26 and fresh from her engagement to Quincy, had inked her name right beside mine. She'd always played the baby of the family, batting lashes for favors, but forging ahead without a whisper, tying me to their sinking ship. My chest tightened, breath coming short as I scrolled the terms: high interest, missed payments, already stacking penalties. They'd used it for Victor's business ideas. Tamara later admitted in a hushed call, but the betrayal hit like ice water. Word spread fast in our tight-knit circle, and soon the demands ramped up. Quincy landed a steady job at a tech firm downtown, and Marissa started house hunting in the leafy Bellevue neighborhoods, her texts buzzing non-stop. "Sis, we found the perfect place. 3 bedrooms, white picket fence dream. But the down payment's killer. $20,000 seals it. You in?" Her emojis sparkled, oblivious or maybe willfully blind. I stared at the photos she sent, gleaming kitchens, yards for kids I'd never have time to visit, while my own fridge hummed empty. Victor jumped in during a group chat, his thumbs flying. "Come on, Kendra, family first, right? You've got that teacher stability." Tamara piled on privately, her messages flooding my inbox late at night. "Don't be selfish now. We've all sacrificed for you. Think of the grandkids." Selfish. The word clawed at me, echoing old wounds from report card days when straight A's meant too bookish in their eyes. I started dodging the weekly calls, letting voicemails pile like unspoken accusations. One Sunday, as I prepped lesson slides on the civil rights movement for my sophomores, Tamara's ringtone pierced the quiet. I let it go to voice her words, spilling out frantic. "Why the silence? Quincy's folks are chipping in, but we need your part. It's only fair." Fair. The irony twisted bitter on my tongue. I'd skipped my own weekend getaway plans 3 times that year to cover their shortfalls, yet here they were, guilting me into more. Preston texted separately, his tone measured as always. "Hey, heard about the house. Rough spot, but Yolanda and I are stretched with the baby. If you could swing it." I gripped the phone harder, knuckles whitening. The exploitation seeped in, slow like smoke filling a room, every ask another layer choking out my space. Gatherings turned into minefields I sidestepped entirely. The annual block party came and went without me, excuses about grading deadlines landing flat. Marissa cornered me at the grocery store one afternoon, her cart loaded with wedding registry china. "What's with you lately? Mom says you're pulling away." She leaned in, voice dropping, conspiratorial. "The loan was just a mix-up. Quincy needed it quick. You'll get it back." A mix-up. My laugh came hollow, echoing off the aisles. I grabbed my milk and walked away, the chill of the cooler section matching the frost settling in my veins. The pressure built relentless, each evasion fueling their persistence until I couldn't ignore the rot anymore. The pressure simmered until it boiled over that sticky summer evening at the backyard BBQ. We settled around the long wooden table as dusk settled, plates clattering under the string lights. Victor carved into his steak, first knife scraping loud, and fixed his gaze on me across the spread. "Kendra, still buried in those history books. No wonder you're single, too busy playing professor to snag a real life." His chuckle rumbled low, the kind that invited echoes. Tamara joined in, dabbing her mouth with a napkin. "She's always been the smart one, but smart don't keep a roof over heads." The words landed casual, but they dug deep, stirring that old ache from childhood debates, where my facts earned snorts, not nods. Quincy shifted, uncomfortable, but Marissa leaned forward, eyes gleaming. Yeah, sis, all that brain power and you can't even spot a good deal on a house. Her fork stabbed a pickle the crunch sharp. I forced a smile fork midway to my mouth, but Victor wasn't done. He leaned back, beer in hand, and delivered the gut punch. How does it feel to be dumber than a pig? The table froze, then cracked open with their laughter. Tamara's high trill, Marissa's full-bellied guffaw that shook her shoulders. Before I could blink, Marissa snatched my plate, the coleslaw slopping over the edge as she flung it toward the grass. This is human food. She sneered, the mess splattering near my feet like an accusation. Forks paused midair, the neighbors glancing away polite, but my family. They howled on Victor, slapping the table till his beer sloshed. Heat flooded my face, not shame but fury, raw and electric coiling tight in my core. Years of barbs, flashed report cards, dismissed scholarships called lucky breaks, but this crossed the line, turning private jabs public. My pulse thundered in my ears. I stood slow chair, tipping back with a thud that silenced the chuckles. You think that's funny? My voice came steady low, cutting through the haze. Victor smirked, wiping his mouth. Lighten up, kiddo. It's just talk. But I was done swallowing it. Fingers flying across my phone screen under the table, I opened the banking app and tapped cancel on the auto-draft mortgage utilities, the works gone in seconds. The confirmation pinged soft, a quiet victory amid their stares. How does it feel knowing this ATM is closing forever? I said, meeting each gaze. Victor's widening eyes, Tamara's paling face, Marissa's frozen grin. Preston cleared his throat, awkward, Yolanda's hand on his arm tense, but no one spoke. Tamara recovered first, her napkin twisting frantic. Kendra, sit down, you're overreacting. Tears welled quick, her specialty. Victor's face darkened, fist clenching. You can't just walk out, we need that money next week. Threats laced his growl, the neighbors edging away now, whispers starting. Marissa stammered. Sis, wait, that was a joke. But the damage hung thick, their amusement curdled to panic. I grabbed my keys from the table, the metal cold against my palm, and turned for the gate. Joke's over, figure it out yourselves. The screen door banged behind me, their calls fading into the night, Victor bellowing my name, Tamara sobbing, Marissa's voice shrill. I slid into my car, engine roaring to life, and drove into the dark, the weight lifting slight with every mile. I pulled into my driveway just past 9, the engine ticking down while my mind raced ahead. Inside, the apartment felt smaller than ever, textbooks stacked on the coffee table, a half-graded essay glaring from my laptop. I dropped my keys with a clatter and sank onto the couch, phone still clutched tight. Notifications piled up already, group chat exploding with Marissa's all caps. What the hell? Victor's missed call flashing red, but Tamara's voicemail cut through, first time stamped minutes after I left. Kendra, come back. This is a family matter, don't throw it all away over a silly dinner. Silly. The word fueled the blaze. I'd endured their jabs for years, but tonight crossed into theft plain and raw. Fury sharpened my focus. I opened the banking app again, thumb hovering over the recurring transfers, mortgage to the lender, utilities wired monthly, even the grocery card I'd set up last winter. One tap, and they vanished, confirmations popping up, green canceled. 30 seconds and 4 years of bleeding money stopped cold. A grim smile tugged at my lips. Present perfect for the win, I'd been their crutch, long enough. But the real gut check came at dawn, sunlight slanting through blinds as Tamara's text lit my screen. Emergency, house payment due Friday. $50,000, buys time please for us. Attached a blurry scan of the foreclosure notice, red stamps screaming overdue. For us. As if my classroom walls closing in from skipped lesson upgrades hadn't been us all along. I forwarded it straight to Ellis, my family lawyer I'd consulted months back on a whim after Dr. Harlan's nudge. Meet today. His reply pinged instant, my office noon, bring everything. Blanche called mid-morning, her voice gravelly over speaker as I navigated traffic. Heard from Preston, you okay? I'll swing by as witness. This smells off. My Aunt Blanche, sharp as ever at 60, had always eyed Victor's hobbies sideways. We converged at Ellis's downtown firm, the lobby smelling of polished wood and stale coffee. He spread the documents across his desk, credit pullouts, loan apps, bank statements I'd emailed overnight. This cosign on the loan fraud territory, Ellis said, glasses slipping down his nose. And the total's $40,000 across lines, all funneled back home. Blanche leaned in, flipping pages with manicured nails. Victor's gambling again, saw the casino stubs in his truck last month. Explains the rush approvals. Her whisper carried weight, the pieces slamming together like a lock clicking shut. Ellis nodded, grim, outlining the felony angles under Washington state law: identity misuse, up to 5 years if prosecuted. We drafted the ultimatum letter that afternoon: sign a repayment plan, house as collateral or face charges. They'll squirm, he warned, sealing the envelope. Sure enough, Victor stormed in by 3, face thunderous, Tamara trailing with red-rimmed eyes. This is blackmail, he bellowed, slamming the table so pens jumped. Ellis stayed cool. It's accountability. Sign or we file tomorrow. Tamara crumpled into a chair, sobs heaving. Kendra, how can you do this? We're your blood. Marissa hovered in the doorway, arms crossed defiant, but her eyes darted nervous. Denial poured out, Victor ranting, mix up on the forms. Marissa muttering it was for the family good. But anger cracked through Victor's vein, bulging as he jabbed a finger. Ungrateful brat, after all we've endured. The cycle spun, wild accusations, flying tears, flowing threats of disownment hurled like grenades. Blanche cut in sharp. Endured, try stealing from your own. Ellis slid the papers forward. Pen scratched reluctant, Victor's grip white-knuckled, Tamara's signature shaky, collateral locked, payments scheduled monthly to creditors. As they shuffled out, sullen and spent, Victor shot back one last glare. You'll regret this. I met it steady. Regret? Not anymore. The signatures dried, but the backlash crashed in waves starting that very week. My inbox overflowed with voicemails from Tamara, her pleas shifting frantic by Tuesday morning. The bank's calling, payments bounced. We can't lose the house over this tantrum. Tantrum. As if her shopping sprees on my dime hadn't been the real indulgence. I deleted them one by one, the delete chime a small rebellion, but the knot in my stomach loosened only slightly. Preston reached out midweek, his text popping up during a free period between algebra classes. Heard the meeting went south. Yolanda and I talked, you did what you had to. Proud of you for holding the line. His words landed warm, a rare anchor in the storm. Yolanda adding her own note later. We've been quiet too long. If you need backup, we're here, no strings. Marissa cracked under the strain by Friday, showing up unannounced at my classroom door. After the final bell, her makeup smudged and arms wrapped tight around a coffee cup. Sis, can we talk away from them? We slipped into the empty faculty lounge, the vending machine humming low as she paced the linoleum. The loan. I signed because Quincy pushed, said it was temporary for our future. But it snowballed and I didn't know how to stop it. Her voice wavered, eyes flicking to the floor. Partial truth maybe, but the confession hung heavy, laced with that old entitlement. They leaned on me too, she whispered, but I get it now why you're done. I nodded, slow, the air thick with unsaid hurts, but trust fractured beyond quick fixes. It's not just the money, Marissa, it's the everything. She hugged me, awkward, before leaving, the door clicking shut, like a period on our old script. Rumors ignited fast after that, seeping through extended family like wildfire on dry grass. Blanche texted updates from her bridge club. Cousin Rita called Victor spinning tales, you're unstable, hoarding cash while we starve. Reputation shredded in whispers at church potlucks and neighborhood apps. Victor's version painting me the villain who abandoned blood for greed. Tamara fueled it, her Facebook posts veiled pleas about hard times from ungrateful kin. The isolation stung fresh, but it hardened my resolve too. I've faced empty parent nights at school, so this echo felt familiar, just louder. Financial ripples hit harder by month's end, the guarantor clause unearthed in a deeper audit, revealing another layer, $15,000 more tacked on from an old credit extension all routed home for emergencies. Nolan, my financial advisor I'd looped in post-meeting, crunched the numbers over Zoom one rainy afternoon, his screen shared with pie charts glaring red. Total exposure $40,000 cleaned up now means your savings rebound in 18 months, retirement on track, even a travel fund. His calm breakdown grounded me, projections showing my teacher salary finally mine. We mapped it out. Cut non-essentials, boost Roth contributions. That Bellevue condo eyed for years. Therapy bridged the gaps with Preston and Blanche that same month, our first group session in a quiet office overlooking Puget Sound. Preston arrived early, Yolanda at his side, fidgeting with her ring. Seeing it from your side, we should have spoken up sooner. Blanche nodded fierce, her scarf knotted tight. Victor's mess isn't yours to mop forever. Dr. Harlan guided us through the tangle, resentments, aired boundaries sketched on notepads, but the air crackled with limits. No full mending, just tentative steps like walking cracked ice. As waves lapped below, I felt the shift, not alone anymore, but clear-eyed on who stayed. By early fall, I'd packed my Seattle apartment into boxes, the echo of empty rooms a relief after the chaos. Portland called with its misty mornings and fresh starts, 45 minutes south, but worlds away in feel. I found a one-bedroom overlooking the Willamette, rent, $1,200 a month, modest, but mine walls painted sage green without anyone's input. Freelance gigs piled up, quick online tutoring for history buffs. Curriculum designs for charters pulling in an extra $20,000 yearly on top of my remote teaching load. Mornings blurred into lesson prep over strong coffee, afternoons free for hikes along the river trails, the crunch of gravel under boots chasing away old shadows. I'd glance at my phone sometimes, the block list a silent shield, numbers from Victor to Mara. Marissa grayed out their attempts, bouncing into void. Foreclosure hit them hard by winter, the bank's notice turning final after skipped installments piled sky high. Eviction papers served in January, deputies at the door while snow dusted the lawn. Victor landed janitor work at a strip mall, $15 an hour, mopping floors till midnight, his old gambling itch flaring under the strain, relapses tracked in Blanche's sparse updates, casino receipts slipping from his wallet again. Tamara scraped by as a clerk at the local dollar store, $11 an hour, ringing up candy for kids half her age. The fluorescent hum amplifying her quiet unraveling into full depression spells that kept her bedbound days. She's not the same, Blanche confided once over coffee, her cup steaming untouched. Pride's a heavy load when it crumbles. Marissa's world tilted next, the wedding plan she'd clung to dissolving under debt's weight. Quincy bailed mid-spring, citing too much family baggage, leaving her with canceled deposits and a venue refund check too small to matter. Job offers dried up after the rumors circled her network, graphic design interviews, ghosting her resume, the scandal's taint lingering like smoke. She texted from a blocked number once, slipping through. "Everything's falling apart. Help." I read it in a park. Cherry blossoms drifting lazy, and deleted without reply. The irony settled cold, they'd branded me the fool, but here they scrambled in the mud they'd dug. A year on, I'd traded their noise for birdsong at dawn, my calendar filled with choices, weekend workshops on Portland's food carts, a solo trip to the coast where waves crashed indifferent. The scars remained faint lines from years bent under their pull, but they'd toughen me too. Cutting ties wasn't cruelty, it was the sharpest mercy I could give myself. Toxic roots strangle if left unchecked, better to sever clean and grow toward light. If this hits home, know it's okay to walk. Your peace isn't negotiable, it's the foundation. Family by blood tests limits, but the ones you choose, they lift. I've learned that the hard way, and it set me free.
I thought I was just being paranoid, but look at this. I shoved my phone into my husband's face, my hands shaking. The nanny cam footage showed my sister-in-law Lisa passed out on our couch, while my 4-year-old daughter Emma wandered out to the backyard pool alone. She could have drowned, Mark, while your sister was sleeping off who knows what. My name is Riley Anderson, and at 35, I never imagined I'd be fighting with my husband over something so serious. Mark and I had built what I thought was a perfect life. Good jobs, a beautiful home in suburban Boston, and our precious Emma. When my sister-in-law moved back to town and offered to watch Emma 3 days a week, it seemed like the perfect solution to our childcare needs. That was until I started noticing things weren't quite right. Lisa's going through a rough time, Mark said, running his hands through his hair. The divorce hit her hard. She probably just took a sleeping pill or something. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. A sleeping pill? While watching our 4-year-old? Emma was alone by the pool for 12 minutes before Lisa woke up. And what about the strange men she keeps bringing to our house during her babysitting days? Mark's face reddened. They're probably just friends helping her through this difficult period. Friends who raid our medicine cabinet? Who leave empty beer cans in our trash? Last week, Emma told me one of them was playing doctor with Lisa in our guest room, while she was supposed to be watching our daughter. The nanny cam had been my last resort. After weeks of finding evidence of Lisa's inappropriate behavior, empty wine bottles hidden in the trash, mysterious pills scattered under the couch, strange men's belongings left behind, I knew I needed proof. What I captured was worse than I imagined. I want her gone, I said firmly. No more babysitting, no more keys to our house, no more putting our daughter at risk. Mark shook his head. She's family, Riley. We can't just abandon her when she needs us. Maybe we can talk to her, set some ground rules. Ground rules? She left our 4-year-old alone by a pool. What if Emma had fallen in? What if... My voice broke as tears started falling. I can't believe you're defending her. After that argument, I started watching the nanny cam footage every evening after Mark went to bed. Each clip confirmed my worst fears. One afternoon, Lisa's friend Jake brought over questionable-looking pills. Another day, she left Emma alone in front of the TV for 3 hours while she napped upstairs. The final straw came when I spotted Lisa taking money from my purse, money I'd specifically counted that morning. I tried talking to my mother-in-law about it, hoping she might intervene. Oh dear, she said, stirring her coffee nervously. Lisa's always been a bit free-spirited, but she loves Emma, and with the divorce, it was the same excuse everyone in Mark's family used to justify Lisa's behavior. My own sister Kate was more direct. You need to get that woman out of your house, she said after I showed her some of the footage. If Mark won't protect Emma, you have to. This isn't about family loyalty anymore. It's about your daughter's safety. I thought about Emma, so innocent and trusting. She loved her Aunt Lisa, even though she'd mentioned things that made my skin crawl. Aunt Lisa's friend gave her special candy that made her sleepy, Emma had told me one day. She said, "Shh, don't tell." The next week, I started working from home on Lisa's babysitting days, claiming my company had changed their remote work policy. I installed more cameras, documented everything. The evidence kept piling up. Prescription bottles with other people's names, mysterious phone calls, Emma being left alone while Lisa disappeared into the guest room with various friends. My breaking point came during a family dinner at my mother-in-law's house. Lisa showed up 2 hours late, clearly under the influence of something. When Emma ran up to hug her, Lisa stumbled and nearly knocked her down. Everyone pretended not to notice. My mother-in-law quickly served dinner, Mark stared at his plate, and I sat there seething. That night, I confronted Mark again. This has to stop, I pleaded. She's not just hurting herself anymore. She's putting our daughter in danger. But he just shook his head and muttered something about family sticking together. I realized then that I was on my own. If Mark wouldn't protect our daughter, I would have to do it myself, even if it meant risking my marriage. I started gathering evidence methodically. Each day, I created detailed logs of Lisa's behavior, backed up the nanny cam footage to a secure cloud drive, and took photos of everything suspicious I found in my house. Kate helped me install motion sensors on our doors and windows, so I'd know exactly when people came and went. The notifications were endless. Lisa letting strangers in at odd hours, Emma being taken out without my permission, mysterious late-night visits. The situation came to a head when Emma developed a mysterious rash. The pediatrician found traces of an unknown medication in her system during routine blood work. When questioned, Emma mentioned that Aunt Lisa had given her special juice to help her take a nap. My blood ran cold. I called a family meeting at my mother-in-law's house. Mark's whole family was there. My mother-in-law, my father-in-law, Lisa, and Mark. I connected my laptop to the TV and played a compiled video of Lisa's worst moments, passing out while watching Emma, bringing strange men into our house, taking pills with them, leaving Emma unattended by the pool. "That's private," Lisa screamed, lunging for my laptop. "You had no right to film me." "I had every right to protect my daughter," I shot back. "Emma's blood work showed traces of sedatives. Want to explain that?" The room fell silent. My mother-in-law started crying. My father-in-law, usually so passive, turned to Lisa with shock on his face. Mark just sat there, pale and silent. "It was just Benadryl," Lisa mumbled. "She wouldn't nap." I pulled out the lab results. "Try again. The doctor says it was prescription sedatives, the same ones you and your friends leave scattered around my house." My father-in-law finally spoke up. "Lisa, is this true? You drugged Emma?" "I needed her to sleep so I could rest. Do you know how hard it is watching a kid all day when you're going through a divorce?" I turned to Mark, who still hadn't said a word. "I'm done. Either Lisa goes or Emma and I do. Your choice." The silence that followed felt endless. Mark looked between his sister and me, tears in his eyes. But I wasn't backing down. Not this time. Not with Emma's safety at stake. 2 days after the family meeting, I came home from work early to find Lisa trying to get into our house. She had been fired from babysitting duties, and Mark had finally changed the locks, but there she was, pounding on our front door. When she saw me pull up, she started screaming. "You ruined everything. You turned my whole family against me." Her words slurred as she stumbled down our front steps. "It was fine before you came along. We took care of each other." I stayed in my car and called the police, recording everything on my phone. Lisa kept ranting, becoming more aggressive by the minute. She picked up one of Emma's garden toys and threw it at my car windshield. "My brother was happy before you. We all were. You think you're so perfect with your rules and your cameras and your stupid job." She grabbed another toy, Emma's favorite watering can, and hurled it across the yard. The police arrived just as she started trying to break our front window with a flower pot. They had to physically restrain her while she screamed about family betrayal and revenge. One of the officers found prescription bottles in her purse. None of them prescribed to her. My mother-in-law showed up as they were putting Lisa in the police car. She had been crying. I could tell by her smeared mascara. "I'll bail her out," she said quietly. "But she's going straight to rehab this time. No more excuses." Mark came home early when I called him about the incident. He stood in our driveway, watching the officers take statements from neighbors who'd witnessed everything. One elderly couple showed videos they'd taken of Lisa's meltdown. "I should have listened to you months ago," Mark said, his voice breaking. She's my little sister. I thought I could help her by giving her a chance, letting her be part of Emma's life. I never thought." I watched as the police car disappeared around the corner, my mother-in-law's car following close behind. The broken toys scattered across our yard looked like casualties of war. In a way they were, casualties of a family war I never wanted to fight. The aftermath of Lisa's arrest hit Mark's family hard. My mother-in-law checked Lisa into an expensive rehab facility in Vermont, draining her retirement fund to pay for it. My father-in-law finally admitted that Lisa had been struggling with addiction since her teens, but the family had always covered it up, made excuses, enabled her behavior. The police investigation revealed more disturbing details. Those friends Lisa brought to our house, known drug dealers in the area. One of them had outstanding warrants. The pills they'd been sharing, stolen from various homes where Lisa had babysat over the years. My mother-in-law broke down when she learned that Lisa had been stealing medication from her elderly neighbors, too. Emma started having nightmares. During play therapy sessions, she revealed things that made my blood boil. How Aunt Lisa's friends would sometimes stay while she napped. How they told her it was a big girl secret, not to tell Mommy about the special juice or the games they played. Each revelation felt like a knife in my heart. Mark fell into a deep depression. He blamed himself for putting Emma at risk, for not believing me sooner, for enabling his sister's behavior all these years. He started seeing a therapist, trying to understand why he'd chosen his sister's comfort over his daughter's safety. I kept thinking about when we were kids, he told me one night. How I was supposed to protect her. Our dad traveled all the time. Our mom was always at her charity events. Lisa only had me. I guess I never stopped seeing her as that little girl who needed my protection. The neighbors who'd witnessed Lisa's meltdown brought over food and offered support, but others in our community weren't so kind. Rumors spread. Parents at Emma's preschool stopped inviting her to play dates. One mom even pulled her daughter out of Emma's class, claiming she didn't feel comfortable after everything that had happened. My mother-in-law threw herself into research about addiction and enablement. She joined support groups, read every book she could find, and started counseling sessions with my father-in-law. Their perfect family facade had cracked, revealing all the rot beneath, but maybe that's what needed to happen for real healing to begin. Through it all, I kept thinking about the signs I'd ignored early on. The way Lisa would get defensive when I came home early. The strange excuses for Emma's unexplained bruises or missing toys. The times my intuition screamed that something was wrong, but I let myself be convinced I was overreacting. Never again, I promised myself. Never again would I let anyone make me doubt my instincts when it came to protecting my child. The real test came 6 months later when Lisa completed her rehab program. My mother-in-law hosted a small family dinner to celebrate, expecting everything to go back to normal. Mark and I agreed to attend, but Emma stayed with my sister Kate. Lisa looked healthier. Clear eyes, steady hands, no more slurred speech. She hugged everyone except me, which suited me fine. Throughout dinner, she kept talking about her recovery, her new job at a coffee shop, her plans to make amends with everyone she'd hurt. "I'd like to see Emma," she said finally, looking directly at me. "I know I messed up, but she's still my niece. I miss her." The table went silent. My mother-in-law reached for Lisa's hand, ready to support whatever she wanted. My father-in-law studied his plate. But before I could respond, Mark spoke up. "No," he said firmly. "You're my sister, Lisa, and I'm glad you're getting help. But you lost the privilege of being in Emma's life when you put her in danger. That's not something we can just forget because you're sober now." Lisa burst into tears. My mother-in-law started to protest, but Mark cut her off. "Mom, stop. We can support Lisa's recovery without putting my daughter at risk again. Emma's safety comes first. She's 4 years old. She doesn't need to be part of Lisa's amends program." I squeezed Mark's hand under the table, proud of him for finally standing firm. Lisa ran from the room, my mother-in-law following close behind. My father-in-law just nodded slowly, looking relieved that someone had finally said what needed to be said. In the car ride home, Mark was quiet for a long time. Finally, he turned to me. "I had this moment during dinner," he said. "Lisa was talking about her progress, and all I could think about was Emma's blood test results. How do you forgive someone for drugging your child?" "Maybe you don't," I replied. "Maybe some things aren't forgivable." "Mom thinks we're being cruel. That family should stick together no matter what. But Emma is our family too. She's just a little girl who trusted her aunt and got hurt because of it." I thought about Emma, safe at Kate's house, probably covered in cookie dough and watching Disney movies. She hadn't asked about her Aunt Lisa in months. The nightmares had finally stopped. Some kinds of healing could only happen with distance. A year passed. Emma started kindergarten, making new friends and slowly forgetting the trauma of her time with Lisa. Mark and I moved forward too, though the ripple effects of Lisa's actions touched every part of our lives. We installed a better security system, carefully vetted our new babysitter, and never left Emma alone with anyone from Mark's family, even my mother-in-law. The family dynamics shifted permanently. Holiday gatherings became awkward affairs, with Lisa's absence hanging over every conversation. My mother-in-law tried to play peacemaker, constantly updating us about Lisa's progress in her recovery program. She's got her 6-month chip, or she's sponsoring other addicts now, as if these achievements should erase what happened to Emma. My father-in-law surprised everyone by becoming our strongest ally. He started attending therapy himself, working through his guilt about ignoring Lisa's addiction for so many years. During one Sunday dinner, he pulled me aside. I enabled her just like everyone else, he admitted. Every time she got in trouble, I threw money at the problem, paid off her debts, hired lawyers, funded her fresh starts in new cities. I thought I was helping, but I was just making it easier for her to avoid consequences. The hardest part was watching Emma process everything in her own way. During a play therapy session, she drew a picture of our family: Mark, me, her grandparents, even the dog. But no Aunt Lisa. When the therapist asked about it, Emma shrugged and said, "Auntie Lisa was not nice. She did bad things. I don't want to play with her." Mark struggled with guilt, especially when mutual friends or relatives accused us of being too harsh. "She's your sister," they'd say. "Everyone deserves a second chance." But they hadn't seen the nanny cam footage. They hadn't sat through Emma's nightmares or therapy sessions. They hadn't found strange pills mixed in with their child's vitamins. One morning, I received a letter from Lisa. She'd written it as part of her 12-step program, attempting to make amends. She apologized for endangering Emma, for betraying our trust, for letting her addiction hurt an innocent child. The letter seemed sincere, but it didn't change anything. Some bridges, once burned, can't be rebuilt. My mother-in-law still pushed for reconciliation. "Lisa's doing so well now," she'd plead. "She's been sober for a year. She has a steady job, a new apartment. She misses Emma so much." But Mark and I stood firm. Lisa's recovery was her journey. It didn't require Emma's participation. We found support in unexpected places. Other parents who dealt with addicted family members reached out to share their stories. My sister Kate became Emma's favorite aunt, filling the void Lisa left with love and appropriate boundaries. Even some of Mark's cousins admitted they'd been worried about Lisa's behavior for years, but had been afraid to speak up. Through it all, Mark and I grew stronger as a couple. The crisis that could have broken our marriage instead taught us to present a united front, to trust each other's instincts, to put our daughter's well-being above everyone else's feelings. We learned that sometimes protecting your child means making difficult, unpopular decisions. At Emma's 6th birthday party, the contrast between past and present hit me hard. Instead of Lisa passed out on our couch, we had responsible adults supervising pool activities. Instead of mysterious friends wandering through our house, we had parents chatting and children laughing. Emma was thriving, surrounded by love and appropriate boundaries. My mother-in-law didn't attend the party. She was visiting Lisa at her new place in Vermont. My father-in-law came alone, bringing Emma a handmade dollhouse he'd spent months crafting. When Emma hugged him tight and called him the best grandpa ever, I saw tears in his eyes. Later that evening, after the party wound down, he helped us clean up. "Lisa asked about Emma again," he said quietly, collecting paper plates. "She's got a new therapist who thinks family reunification would help her recovery." "That's not happening," Mark replied, his voice firm but tired. We'd had this conversation so many times. "I know," my father-in-law said, surprising us both. I told her the same thing. Her recovery has to be about her, not about getting access to Emma again. Some things can't be undone. That night, looking through party photos, I found one that made me pause. Emma was standing by her birthday cake, beaming at the camera, surrounded by her new friends from kindergarten. She looked so different from the anxious, clingy child she'd been during the months Lisa watched her. The nightmares had stopped. She no longer feared being left alone. She trusted her new babysitter, a retired teacher we'd carefully vetted. Mark noticed me studying the photo. "Sometimes I wonder if we're too hard on Lisa," he admitted. Then I remember finding those pills in Emma's juice cup, or watching the nanny cam footage of Emma wandering alone by the pool. Being sober doesn't erase what happened. My sister Kate, who'd stayed to help clean up, overheard us. "You know what they say in Al-Anon? You didn't cause it, you can't control it, and you can't cure it. Lisa's addiction isn't your responsibility. Protecting Emma is." That wisdom stuck with me. We hadn't caused Lisa's addiction or her poor choices. We couldn't control her recovery journey, and we certainly couldn't cure her by sacrificing Emma's safety and well-being. The only thing we could control was how we moved forward as a family. My mother-in-law still sends us regular updates about Lisa's progress, probably hoping we'll change our minds. Lisa has 2 years of sobriety now. She works at a recovery center, helping other addicts. She's making amends where she can. But some doors have to stay closed. Some boundaries have to remain firm, especially when a child's safety is involved. Emma rarely asks about her Aunt Lisa anymore. When she does, we're honest in age-appropriate ways. "Aunt Lisa made choices that weren't safe for you," we explain. "We're glad she's getting help, but our job is to keep you safe." 3 years after Lisa's meltdown in our front yard, Emma started 3rd grade. During a school project about family trees, she drew our family with a small note next to Lisa's name. "Lives far away because she was sick and made unsafe choices." Her teacher called us, concerned, but we explained the situation. She commended our honesty with Emma. My father-in-law framed that family tree drawing and hung it in his workshop. When my mother-in-law complained about it, he stood his ground. "This is our reality," he told her. "We can't pretend the past didn't happen just because it's uncomfortable." Mark found his own peace through a support group for siblings of addicts. He learned that loving someone doesn't mean enabling them, that boundaries aren't punishment, and that protecting his child from an unsafe situation isn't betrayal. It's parenting. Life settled into a new normal. We created traditions to replace the old ones that revolved around Lisa. Sunday dinners happened at our house instead of my mother-in-law's. Holiday celebrations became smaller but more peaceful. Emma bonded deeply with my sister Kate, who showed her what a healthy aunt-niece relationship should look like. The security cameras stayed up, but we rarely checked them anymore. The extra locks on our doors became routine rather than reminders of past trauma. Emma's therapy sessions went from weekly to monthly to as needed. Slowly, steadily, our family healed, not by pretending the wound never happened, but by acknowledging it and learning from it. Last summer at a family wedding, we ran into Lisa. She'd been invited by a mutual cousin who didn't know the full story. Emma gripped my hand tight but didn't hide behind me like she might have done before. Lisa kept her distance, respecting the boundaries we'd set. She looked healthy, clear-eyed, and seemed to understand that some consequences last longer than active addiction. My mother-in-law tried to orchestrate a reunion, but Mark shut it down immediately. She finally stopped pushing after my father-in-law pulled her aside. "The kids are grown now," he told her. "Let them make their own choices about family." Some relatives still call us harsh or unforgiving. They point to Lisa's recovery as proof that people can change. And they're right, people can change. But change doesn't erase consequences, and forgiveness doesn't require restoration of trust. Sometimes love means keeping firm boundaries, even when it hurts. Emma grew into a confident, secure child who understands that adults should never ask her to keep secrets, that her safety matters more than anyone's feelings, and that it's okay to say no to family members who make unsafe choices. These weren't lessons we wanted her to learn so young, but they're lessons that will serve her well. Mark and I learned our own lessons about standing firm together, trusting our instincts, and putting our child's well-being first. We discovered that family isn't just about blood. It's about choices, boundaries, and respect. Sometimes protecting the family you've built means stepping back from the family you were born into. You're choosing a farmer over your own family? My father's voice boomed across his mahogany-filled executive office. "This is insanity, Sarah. You've lost your mind." He slammed his fist on the desk, making his CEO of the Year award rattle. My mother sat in her designer suit, dabbing at her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief, while my younger sister Madison stared at me like I'd grown a second head. My name is Sarah Mitchell, and at 35, I'd finally found the courage to follow my heart, even if it meant walking away from my family's wealth and status. After 15 years of being the perfect corporate daughter, Stanford Business School, VP position at Mitchell Enterprises, the whole 9 yards, I was choosing love over luxury. And boy, did that throw my family into chaos. "He's not just a farmer, Dad," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Jack runs one of the most successful organic farms in the valley. He's educated, hardworking." "He's nobody," my dad cut me off. "While you were learning to run a billion-dollar company, he was probably learning to milk cows. Is that what you want? To throw away everything we've built for you to become a farmer's wife?" The irony is, I met Jack Wilson at one of my dad's own charity galas. He wasn't even supposed to be there. He was filling in for another local business owner. But there he was, in a slightly outdated suit, talking passionately about sustainable agriculture and his vision for the future. While other men at these events usually tried to impress me with their stock portfolios or vacation homes, Jack spoke about soil conservation and helping small farmers thrive. "I've already made up my mind," I told them, standing up straighter. "I'm moving in with Jack next week. The wedding's in 3 months, and I hope you'll be there." "If you walk out that door," my father said, his voice cold, "don't expect to keep your position here, or your trust fund, or anything else from this family." I looked around the office one last time, the family photos on the wall, all perfectly staged, of course, the views of downtown Seattle, the life I was supposed to want. Then I placed my company ID and credit cards on his desk. "Goodbye, Dad. Mom. Madison." I turned and walked out, my heels clicking on the marble floors for the last time. Behind me, I could hear my mom's quiet sobs and Madison's whispered, "She's lost it completely." When I tell people I gave up a 7-figure salary and a corner office to live on a farm, they usually think I had some sort of mental breakdown. The reality? Living in Jack's farmhouse these past 6 months has brought me more peace than 20 years in corporate America ever did. Sure, the transition wasn't easy. Trading my Tesla for a pickup truck, my Louboutins for work boots, my penthouse for a century-old farmhouse, it was a shock to the system. The first time I had to help deliver a calf at 3 a.m., I almost called my driver out of habit before remembering this was my life now. But there was something real about it all, something my previous life had lacked. My family's reaction was exactly what you'd expect. My mom sent daily texts about good matches from her country club circle. Madison kept forwarding job listings from competing companies. My dad maintained radio silence, though his secretary called monthly to remind me what I was giving up. The trust fund, the connections, the real life they thought I deserved. What they didn't understand was that Jack wasn't some simple farmer. Yes, he worked the land, but he also had degrees in agricultural science and business management. His organic farming operation supplied high-end restaurants across 3 states. He'd turned his grandfather's struggling farm into a model of sustainable agriculture. But to my family, anyone who didn't make their money in a boardroom was beneath them. The wedding invitations went out last week. My mom returned hers with a note saying she couldn't bear to watch my downfall. Madison at least called to decline, blaming a business trip that I knew she'd scheduled specifically for that date. My dad's invitation came back unopened. I was helping Jack review some property documents when something caught my eye. The farm's boundaries extended far beyond what I'd originally thought, including a pristine piece of lakefront property. The same property my dad had been trying to acquire for his new resort development. "Oh yeah," Jack said casually. "Your father's company has been trying to buy that land for months. They've offered way above market value, but my grandfather promised to keep it agricultural. It's some of the best soil in the valley." I sat there stunned as the implications sank in. My dad's big resort project, the one he'd been bragging about at every board meeting, couldn't happen without this land. And it belonged to the man he'd dismissed as just a farmer. I didn't tell Jack about my dad's project right away. I needed time to process this bizarre twist of fate. The next morning, while collecting eggs from the chicken coop, something that still amazed my manicured hands, I got the call I'd been expecting. "Sarah, darling!" My mom's voice dripped with sudden sweetness. "We've been thinking about your situation. Perhaps we were too hasty. Why don't you and Jack come to dinner on Sunday?" I nearly dropped my basket. After 6 months of cold shoulders and disapproving messages, this sudden change of heart was suspicious. Then my dad came on the line. "Princess, your mother's right. We should get to know this young man of yours. Maybe we can find a way to make this work. After all, we're family." Standing there in my muddy boots, surrounded by clucking chickens, I finally understood. They must have discovered Jack owned the land. This wasn't about accepting my choices. It was about securing their business interests. The thought made my stomach turn. That evening, I watched Jack working in his office, poring over crop rotation plans. He was completely unaware that he held the key to a multi-million-dollar development deal. When he noticed me staring, he just smiled and asked if I wanted to help him plan next season's organic vegetable program. "My parents invited us to dinner," I said carefully. "They want to make amends." Jack looked up, surprised. "Really? What changed their minds?" I took a deep breath. "I think I know. And we need to talk about something important." Before I could continue, his phone rang. It was his lawyer calling about another offer from Mitchell Enterprises, this time double the previous amount. Jack politely declined, as he had every other offer. When he hung up, he noticed my face. "Sarah, what's wrong?" "That resort they want to build? It's my father's pet project, the one he's been working on for years. Without this land, it can't happen." Jack was quiet for a moment. "Is that why they suddenly want to meet me? To negotiate?" I nodded, fighting back tears. "I'm so sorry. I should have realized sooner." To my surprise, Jack started laughing. "Your father's been sending increasingly aggressive offers for months, never once mentioning he was your dad. I guess he didn't want to admit his daughter was marrying the stubborn farmer who kept turning him down." Sunday dinner at the Mitchell mansion was exactly the power play I expected. My mom had arranged everything perfectly. Her best china, fresh flowers from her greenhouse, and even my favorite childhood dessert. My dad was wearing his closing a deal smile, the same one he used on reluctant investors. "Jack, my boy," my dad boomed as we entered, acting like he hadn't spent months calling Jack a gold-digging nobody. "Welcome to our home. Sarah tells us you're quite the entrepreneur yourself." I watched Jack take it all in. The crystal chandeliers, the original artwork, the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Seattle. He looked surprisingly comfortable in his pressed jeans and button-down shirt, so different from the suits that usually occupied these rooms. "Nice place you have here, Mr. Mitchell," Jack said politely. "Those are some beautiful heirloom roses in your garden. Though you might want to check them for black spot. I noticed some discoloration on the leaves." My mom nearly choked on her wine. Nobody criticized her prize roses. But Jack was right. I'd noticed the same thing on our way in. He might not know about fine art or fancy wines, but he knew about growing things. Throughout dinner, my dad expertly steered the conversation toward business. "You know, Jack, your sustainable farming methods are fascinating. Have you ever considered expanding? With the right investment partner?" "Actually," Jack replied between bites of my mom's roast beef, "we are expanding. Just broke ground on a new greenhouse complex last week. Self-funded, of course." I hid my smile behind my napkin. Jack hadn't mentioned any greenhouse project to me. He was playing my dad at his own game. The tension peaked when my dad finally showed his hand. "About that lakefront parcel," he said casually, swirling his bourbon. "I have some interesting proposals that could benefit us both. Why don't we step into my study to discuss numbers?" "With all due respect, sir," Jack replied, That land isn't for sale. At any price. It's not about money, it's about keeping a promise and protecting something valuable. My dad's face darkened. Everything has a price, son. Name it. Not everything, Mr. Mitchell. Not integrity, not promises, and not your daughter's trust. The silence that followed was deafening. My dad's face turned that dangerous shade of red I remembered from childhood board meetings gone wrong. My mom's perfectly manicured fingers gripped her wine glass so hard I thought it might shatter. Now listen here, my dad growled, dropping all pretense of friendliness. You clearly don't understand how things work in the real world. That resort would bring jobs, tourism, development. Are you really going to let your stubborn pride stand in the way of progress? Progress? Jack set down his fork. You mean like paving over some of the most fertile soil in the valley? Displacing family farms that have been here for generations? That kind of progress? They'd be well compensated, my dad snapped. More money than their farms have made in decades. Until the money runs out, Jack replied calmly. Then what? They can't eat money, Mr. Mitchell. But they can eat what we grow. That land feeds people, real people, not just rich tourists looking for a weekend getaway. I reached for Jack's hand under the table, squeezing it gently. This was the man I'd fallen in love with, someone who understood that some things mattered more than money. Sarah, my mom interjected, her voice honey-sweet but desperate. Surely you can make him understand. Think about your future, darling, your children's future. I am thinking about the future, Mom, just not the one you imagined for me. My dad stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the hardwood floor. If you walk away now, don't come crawling back when you're tired of playing farmer's wife. There won't be a place for you here anymore. There hasn't been a real place for me here in years, Dad, I said quietly. I was just too afraid to admit it. But I'm not afraid anymore. Jack and I stood up together. As we headed for the door, Madison finally spoke up from her silent observation. You're really choosing dirt and tractors over all of this? She gestured at the opulent dining room. No, Madison, I'm choosing love and purpose over empty luxury. Maybe someday you'll understand the difference. The aftermath of that dinner sent shockwaves through Seattle's business community. My dad tried everything, pressuring local banks to deny us loans, spreading rumors about the farm's financial stability, even attempting to sway Jack's restaurant clients to other suppliers. But he underestimated both Jack's reputation and my own business savvy. 2 weeks later, I was sorting through our mail when I found a thick envelope from Mitchell Enterprises' legal department. Inside was a detailed proposal for a compromise. They'd let us keep half the farmland if we sold the lakefront portion. The offer was accompanied by a personal note from my dad. Be reasonable, princess. Everyone wins this way. I was about to toss it in the recycling when Jack came in from the fields. You need to see this, he said, holding up his tablet. On the screen was an email from one of the state's largest organic food distributors. They wanted to partner with us, exclusively. Our sustainable farming methods and premium produce had caught their attention. The contract would triple our business overnight. This is what I was working on instead of Dad's resort, Jack smiled. We don't need their kind of progress. We're making our own. That evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset over our fields, I drafted a response to my dad's offer. I attached photos of our latest soil analysis reports, showing the exceptional quality of the lakefront property's earth. I included testimonials from local families who depended on our farming co-op program. Finally, I added projected revenue figures for our new distribution contract. Keep your resort, Dad, I wrote. We're building something more important. The next day, we received an unexpected visitor. Madison pulled up in her Mercedes, looking comically out of place on our dirt driveway. She stood awkwardly in her designer heels, taking in the scene, me in my work clothes, helping Jack load produce for the farmer's market. I don't understand any of this, she admitted, but you look happy, really happy. And that new distribution deal? The board's talking about it. You're actually making waves in the industry, just not the way Dad expected. It was the first crack in the family's united front against us. Madison stayed for dinner, asking genuine questions about the farm, actually listening to our vision for the future. As she was leaving, she paused. Maybe you could show me around the farmer's market sometime? Life has a funny way of coming full circle. A year after that explosive family dinner, I found myself back in a corporate boardroom, but this time, I was representing our farm at a sustainable agriculture conference. Our success story had caught the attention of the organic farming community, and they wanted me to share how we'd managed to turn a traditional family farm into a model of sustainable profitability. As I prepared for my presentation, I spotted a familiar face in the audience, my dad. He sat in the back row, trying to be inconspicuous in his $1,000 suit among the farmers and agricultural specialists. Our eyes met briefly, but neither of us acknowledged the other. I talked about our journey, about choosing purpose over profit, about building something meaningful. I shared how our distribution partnership had exceeded expectations, how our farming co-op program had helped 5 local families start their own organic operations, how we'd expanded our greenhouse program to supply fresh produce year-round. The questions afterward were mostly technical: soil management strategies, distribution logistics, profit margins. But one young woman asked something different. "Weren't you afraid to leave your corporate career behind?" I couldn't help glancing at my dad as I answered. The scariest decisions often lead to the most rewarding outcomes. Sometimes you have to trust that choosing what's right matters more than choosing what's easy. After the conference, Madison met me for coffee. She'd been visiting the farm regularly, even helping at our weekend farmers market stall. The designer clothes were gone, replaced by casual wear, and she looked more relaxed than I'd ever seen her. "Dad's resort project fell through," she told me, stirring her latte. "The investors backed out when they realized the lakefront property wasn't available. But here's the interesting part. My mom's been asking questions about our farming operation." I caught her reading books about organic gardening. I laughed at the image of our mother with her perfect manicure digging in the dirt, but then Madison turned serious. "She misses you, Sarah. Dad too, though he'd never admit it. The house feels empty now. All that success, all that money. It doesn't mean much when your family's broken." "I never wanted to break the family," I said quietly. "I just couldn't keep pretending to be someone I'm not." "I know that now," Madison replied. "And I think they're starting to understand too. Dad even defended your business model at a board meeting last week, called it innovative and forward-thinking." 2 months after the conference, we got a surprising piece of mail, an environmental impact study commissioned by Mitchell Enterprises. It detailed the potential ecological damage their resort project would have caused to the valley's water table and soil quality. At the bottom was a handwritten note from my dad. "You were right about the land. Maybe we need to talk." That weekend, my parents' car pulled up our driveway for the first time. My mom was wearing jeans. I'd never seen her in denim in my life. My dad looked older, more subdued. They stood awkwardly on our porch, taking in the windmill, the solar panels, the fields stretching out to the horizon. "Your mother wants to see your greenhouse," my dad said gruffly, "if that's all right." Jack gave them the full tour, explaining our hydroponic systems and vertical farming techniques. My mom actually seemed interested, asking questions about the herbs she'd been trying to grow in her windowsill garden. My dad remained quiet, but I caught him nodding appreciatively at our computer-controlled irrigation system. Over dinner, featuring everything from our own farm, my dad finally spoke up. "The board is interested in establishing a sustainable agriculture division," he said, pushing food around his plate. "They think there's a growing market for it. We could use some expert consultation." I nearly dropped my fork. Was this my father's version of an olive branch? "We're not selling the land, Dad," I said firmly. "I know," he replied, surprising me. "That's not what I'm suggesting. The company needs to adapt, to think about the future differently. You two seem to know how to do that." Later, as Jack and my dad discussed potential collaboration ideas, my mom pulled me aside. "I didn't understand before," she said softly. "I thought you were throwing your life away. But watching you today, the way you light up talking about this place, how proud you are of what you've built, I've never seen you so alive." The sun was setting over the fields as my parents prepared to leave. My dad stopped by the old oak tree in our front yard, the one Jack's grandfather had planted. "You know," he said, "I spent my whole life building things that reach toward the sky. Maybe I should have paid more attention to what grows from the ground up." These days, our farm has become something none of us expected. We still supply organic produce to restaurants and markets, but we've also started an education program. Every weekend, young entrepreneurs and corporate burnouts visit to learn about sustainable farming. Even Madison quit her VP position at Mitchell Enterprises to help run our training workshops. The biggest surprise? My mom's weekly visits. She started small, helping with the herb garden, but now she manages our entire flower program. Those designer suits are permanently replaced by gardening clothes, and she's never seemed happier. She's even started teaching floral arrangement classes to local kids. My dad's transformation has been more subtle, but just as meaningful. While he hasn't traded his business world for farming, he's helped us expand our reach. Mitchell Enterprises now partners with small farms across the state, proving that profit and sustainability can coexist. Last month, he proudly showed me their new corporate mission statement, "Growing success from the ground up," a phrase that made us both smile. Jack and I still laugh about how it all started, my family's horror at their perfect corporate daughter falling for a farmer. But sometimes the worst moments in life lead you exactly where you need to be. We didn't just save a piece of land. We helped heal a family. At a harvest festival that we hosted at the farm, as I watched my dad teaching my 3-year-old daughter how to pick strawberries, my mom arranging wildflowers with local children, and Madison giving tours of our new training center, I couldn't help but marvel at life's unexpected turns. The land that once threatened to tear our family apart has become the very thing that brought us back together. The resort never happened, but something better grew in its place. Understanding, respect, and a deeper kind of success than any of us had imagined. Jack joined me on the porch, dirty from working in the fields but grinning. "Think you made the right choice?" he asked, wrapping an arm around me. I watched as my dad scooped up our daughter, both of them laughing as they headed toward my mom's flower garden. The setting sun painted the fields golden, and the evening air was sweet with the smell of ripening fruit and fresh herbs. "You know," I said, "I don't think I chose between my family and the farm after all. I just helped them see there was room for both." Sometimes the biggest risks lead to the greatest rewards. I may have walked away from one version of success, but I walked into something far more precious. A life rich with purpose, love, and the kind of wealth you can't measure in dollars.